Hello guys and welcome back to the Stacey West YouTube channel. I am Ben and I'm here to preview the upcoming game as the Cobblers visit Sincilbank on Friday. We're playing Northampton Town at home and I am joined by Chessie from It's All Cobblers to Me. How are you doing? Are you all well and have you had a decent Christmas?
Very well, thank you. Very well.
Excellent stuff. Well, I mean, we might as well, get straight into it. You guys have come up from League Two last season. Seem to be settling fairly well. Bit of a indifferent start, we'll say, to the season, but got a few wins under your belt now, and you seem to be settling upper mid-table. So, would you say you're satisfied so far with, how the season's gone, and has it outperformed your expectations at the beginning of it?
Absolutely. I think if you would have asked me in August, where do you think we'll be come Christmas, and someone said to me mid-table, I'd have bitten your arm off, literally, because we are surpassing every expectation. And I say this with huge amounts of bated breath, but barring a complete and utter collapse through the entire second half of the season, it's less likely for us to be relegated. And for us, it was simply stay up. And
Yep.
by that, it was stay up by 1 point, 1 goal, whatever you've got to stay up by, just stay up. And so for us to be where we are is incredible, really, given the budget. Lots to talk about budgets in the league. That I think is a different argument, but definitely given the budget, the situation with the club in terms of the fact that we have got quite a few injuries, the fact that we're first up, highest in terms of the level in which John Brady has coached, lots of different things. We lost Colin Calderwood fairly recently, so there's been lots of things that have gone on in the background, and we seem to be managing them really well. And John Brady's known for that. Whilst he's a very animated man pitch side, which if you watch League One football, you'll see, but he is very calm within the dressing room and within that backroom staff that we've got. And that's really, really important. And that really helps because we've got quite a few young players. So yeah, I'm really, really happy as a Cobblers fan.
Excellent stuff. I mean, it if you pardon the comparison, from the outside, it seems like it's almost a bit of kind of like an Accrington situation where everybody's, pulling together, and it's the end product is way more than the sum of its parts. There's a real sense of cohesion there with you guys at the moment, and hopefully, like you say, you're managing to scrape up into the lower halves of the lower half of the top half, should I say? So, it seems good. I mean, couple of results really stand out to me. Obviously, fairly early on in the season, you managed to get a 1-0 win at home to Peterborough. And then the other wins, you've had a couple of spells where you've not been able to get a W on the board. But I think most recently, obviously, beat Oxford 2-1, which was, Oxford came to the bank a few weeks back, and I thought they were really, really impressive. So, I mean, just tell us how that came about. Did Oxford have an off day, or were you guys just on fire that day?
Well, we scored in the 97th minute, and it was fairly wild. In the Peterborough game as well, even further back in the season, we scored in literally the death. We seem to, and we scored against you right at the death as well, back along. We seem to be the creators of our own downfall, but able to recover from that quite well. And what I mean by that is, sometimes we'll really lose our way in the first 20 minutes of a game and find ourselves 1 or 2-0 down, and then be able to claw something back. There are other examples where we have just simply bossed a game and been able to work really hard for the points that we've earned. But generally what we've been doing is we've been staying really competitive.
Mm-hmm.
Bar the other day, bar Stevenage, bar Portsmouth arguably, and bar Derby, there's the only 3 games that I can really think of where we haven't been competitive at all. And that's quite important, because I've always said, being in League One, as long as you are competitive, then you give yourself a chance.
Mm-hmm.
So that's quite important. I think we've done well in quite a lot of the games that we've had against higher opposition. But what we're also starting to do is boss the games against the lower division. For example, we beat Fleetwood really, really convincingly a couple of weeks ago, and that was crucial, I think, because what we had then was we had Blackpool midweek and then Portsmouth. Now we lost the Portsmouth one, that was kind of inevitable. They're effectively a championship club in terms of quality, not necessarily budget wise, but just the quality they've got on the pitch. But the Blackpool win that midweek was a massive turning point for us. That's when we started to all think, oh, we've maybe got something that we can work with here. Because before the Fleetwood and Blackpool games, I would say that we were looking at potentially, looking behind your shoulder quite a lot. But actually at the moment, we just seem to be focusing on where we are, which is mid-table, and that's fine, and just concentrating on getting the next batch of points. Now, we didn't turn up against Stevenage at all, but that's a rarity.
Fair enough. I mean, obviously the reverse fixture earlier on in the season, 2-2 draw away at your place. How have things evolved from your side then? I mean, I think you set up with a 4-3-3 that day. Is it still much the same style, much the same personnel, or has there been maybe not sweeping changes, but I'm guessing things have been tweaked here and there to kind of adapt to life in League One a bit more?
Yeah, I think our styles evolved massively. I think you'll probably, if they turn up, it's very rare that they don't turn up, but they didn't on Boxing Day. But I do think that the evolution in the squad and the confidence, because we're very much a confidence team, it has changed drastically. Midfield is absolutely bossed by Mark Leonard. We've got him on loan from Brighton, and he is by far and away our best player. Some people argue that he's the best player they've seen in a Cobblers shirt. Now, I don't know. I've watched the Cobblers for a really long time. I don't think he's far off. I think we've had some brilliant players. I don't think he's far off. And if he has a really good game and he plays further forward, we get the formation so that he's further forward, then we will be able to boss that midfield a little bit easier. Some real free-flowing football. You've got Paddy B on the wing, and his crosses can be pretty lethal, and so can Mitch Pinnock's. So if they play and they play well and they compete well, you will have your hands full. That doesn't necessarily mean that we'll win, because I know we were speaking off air about the fact that we're both supporters of teams that seem to stagger a little bit once they get into the penalty area. Bar Sam Hoskins, who's a bit of a dream.
Yeah, I was going to say, let's talk about Hoskins, because obviously we're not even in the new year and he's already in double figures for the season. I think he's got 12 in the league already, which is pretty impressive. I mean, just how important has he been to your guys' success story so far this year?
He's been on a massive journey with Sam Hoskins. He's been at the club for 8 years now, and he really is a stalwart. But he divided opinion hugely until last year because his goal return was fairly minimal. But he was obviously in the squad for a reason. People could see it, and it's just completely clicked for him. I mean, last year was a ridiculous goal return, particularly given the circumstances as well, because we were just decimated with injuries last year. So the fact that he was able to complete the season and with the goal return was phenomenal. This year, I think, well, we know from goal-wise he's been absolutely crucial, but I think further to that, what can happen, sometimes we can have a complete off day, or we can have a day where it's not quite working for us, or it's not just not your day, and then he'll just pop up. He'll just randomly pop up and go, oh, there he is. We did it against Cheltenham the end of the summer, and that was really crucial for us at the time because we were both right down at the bottom, and it was effectively a really early in the season 6-pointer. So for us, we'd absolutely played them off the park all day, but just couldn't put the ball in the net. And then he popped up on 86, 87 minutes and just put it in the net from a ridiculous angle. And that's the kind of thing he does. He just, even if there's absolutely nothing going for you, and if it's the most boring, mundane 0-0, he'll just go, right, okay, here I am. And it's frightening because it comes from nowhere. Absolutely comes from nowhere sometimes. And sometimes he has no right to score the goals that he scores, and if you consider that he's playing the level up from what he was last year, he's impressive. Very impressive.
I mean, you kind of you want that from any of your players, don't you? If you make the step up in the divisions, you want to see the guys that have come up with you and make that step up. And I think, yeah, if you can endear yourselves to the fans in the way that it sounds like Sam's done there, it sounds like you've got a bit of a player, and it's good to see that he's turned his opinions around, or turned the opinion of a lot of fans around as well. So that sounds sounds really impressive. I mean, we've said about how you guys tend to set up. I mean, I said earlier in the season it looked more of a 4-3-3. Is it still around that at the minute, or is it kind of
Yeah, we
branching
could.
out a little bit?
Yeah, we can tweak a little bit. We've had a bit of a nightmare at the back because we've had Lee Burge, our goalie, out, and we've had John Guthrie. So the defence has been changing quite a little bit. We've got Jordan Willis on loan from Coventry at the moment, and he's signed until January. I think they're going to look to carry that signing. Well, I'd hope they would anyway. But he's been really, really good, and he's been filling in. And the defence shape has been a little bit different. We've got McGowan, who is again a really important piece of our puzzle, but doesn't always play. And so our defence has been chopped and changed quite a bit. Against Stevenage, we had Shering, one of our defenders, also go down injured. I'm not really sure what went on there or what's going to happen. But what we ended up doing was completely changing shape and putting Tyree Simpson, our striker, on and completely switched formation. So that was quite brave, actually, and quite unusual for Brady. He doesn't often do that. He tends to try and stick to what works. I know when we had the run of games where we had some really good form, he stuck to the same formation, the same style of play, and that was really, really good for us. That worked for us and worked well. But it's very much based on what, in terms of squad availability, we've got. For example, Sean McWilliams in our squad, he's a key part of the midfield, but he wasn't available yesterday. And so that then changes things, and it's not quite right. And I think that's part of the reason why it went so terribly wrong for us yesterday.
Okay, and you did allude to it briefly. You've said we've kind of spoken off air and said that at the moment we both seem to be decent enough in the first 2/3 of the pitch, and then the final third is where it starts to go awry a little bit. What are you putting that down to with you guys? I mean, I think if you ask any of the Lincoln fans, 9 out of 10 of them will probably say, "Oh, well, you look at the players that we don't have available." Is it much the same for you guys at the moment, or is it kind of maybe something that just needs tweaking tactically to get the best out of them?
Yeah, I would agree. I actually think that if Northampton Town Football Club themselves were listening, they'd probably disagree with me. But from the outside in, it certainly looks to be that the situation we find ourselves in at the moment is actually quite positive, because we've got Kieran Bowie again on loan. He's scoring some goals at the moment, which is really positive. And we've always got Sam Hoskins, again, crucial. But the problem we've got is that we brought in Tyree Simpson from Huddersfield, and for whatever reason, it just doesn't seem to have worked for him with us. Having said that, he got the winner against Oxford, but that was an absolute fluke, I think, in terms of that's not happened before, and he just happened to have been subbed on. What we also haven't got at the moment is Louis Appere. He is a forward, but he's very much a nuisance for any opposition. And we also haven't got a fit Danny Hilton. He's just come back into the squad now. He came on off the bench on the 23rd. So we're up front. We've had an issue with availability, definitely. Little bit of lacking confidence. I think if Tyree Simpson's stint with us would have started well, we probably might have been having a very different conversation. What we have done, though, having said all that, is we've coped. We've found goals from elsewhere. We've got some really good players that can cross wicked balls into the box, so that we do stand a bit of a chance. But I think our goal return could have been stronger. We've certainly got personnel within the squad, whether they're starting or not, that could have provided goals that, for whatever reason, haven't.
Okay. So I mean, yeah, let's sort of look ahead to Friday a little bit more specifically. Then, I mean, what have you cast much of an eye over Lincoln? Have you got any of the imps that have caught your eye from our side, or how have you seen our season from an opposition fan's view?
So I think from what we were talking about earlier off air, it certainly seems like you had really high expectations. When I was looking at some of your results in the last few weeks, it looks like you're very much a mid-table team at the moment in terms of results. It's a bit kind of win, lose, draw kind of pattern. Obviously, it doesn't go exactly like that, but they're
Yeah.
kind of all over the shop, which is very much like us. I think for you guys, the instability in terms of management changes and things like that probably always has an impact. For me as well, when I saw you guys at the beginning of the season, from what I saw, there was a decent squad there, and particularly in midfield, you were very strong. But again, we just happened to drag something out of that game. But that's where our quality lies. We do tend to drag things out of the game, and it's whether you can cope with that. I don't know from your point of view whether there's been massive improvement on the pitch since those changes.
I'd probably say that uh, it's a buzzword at the moment. I know there's a lot of people that are going to be watching this that we have certain trigger words, and we'll have klaxons and sirens going off like we're on QI or something. But a lot of the out of possession stuff that we're doing at the minute, when we don't have the ball, we're working incredibly hard to close down the space. I mean, we're pressing teams quite hard and trying to make sure that we can win the ball back. It's just like I said to you at the moment, when we do get the ball back and we try and get forward with it, we're just struggling because we just don't have the personnel up top. I mean, we've got Jack Vale on loan, and he doesn't seem to have fit quite as we'd expected to in our style. So in terms of our strike force, we're relying on Jovan Makama, who's 19 and he's not really played in this division much. So it's a really tough spell at the moment, and we're just waiting for people to come back. So yeah, I mean, I think you might see something of a different side to the team that came up to you guys earlier on in the season, but that's going to be down to the personnel changes that we've been forced to have. Like Rico Hackett, I know he had a storming game when we played you earlier in the season.
Yeah,
But
I was going to say he was one of those that definitely caught my eye, and he seemed to kind of tear things up, and that
yeah,
was when we were fairly new in the league, so that was a bit of a shock for us until we found our feet with it.
yeah, and unfortunately, unfortunately for us, he's out injured at the moment as well. He's teasing a bit of a return, I think, from the management side of things. So they tend to keep that stuff close to their chests. But yeah, I mean, we're also going to be, looking back at it, we're looking back at the lineup. We're without Ben House that started that game, without Rico Hackett. We're out without Danny Mandroiu because he got
sent off, didn't he?
Yeah, he got sent off on Boxing Day. So that's the front three that played. We've then got Jaden Brown, who started that game. He's likely not going to start on Friday. And Jack Burrows, who will probably be replaced by Lasse Sorensen, who was, who's kind of made that right wing back his own. But other than that, I mean, yeah, we've got, Ethan Hamilton, Ethan Arahan, TJ Omer, Porty O'Connor, and Sean Rowan, with Jensen in goal, obviously. That back five, the back three and the midfield two, I'd expect to see pretty much the same. But everything forward of that is just going to be completely different on Friday, I'd imagine. So, yeah.
And that could potentially even play into your hands, to be honest, because it's one of those things where you kind of have to just go for it.
Yeah.
Because you've got no other option but to do that. You're really short. We had so many periods like that in League Two last year, and we were on our way up because we had 14 first team players injured, and it was just effectively a bloodbath. It was awful, and we were literally playing at one point. Max Dyche, Sean Dyche's son, he's a defender playing up front, and it's the only thing we could do.
Yeah.
And he's 18 now, 19, and it's that kind of thing, isn't it? Sometimes you just have to throw the kitchen sink at it and say, right, this is what we've got, and this is what we can do. I mean, our defense generally is very, very strong.
Okay.
And has been very consistent right through from when we, even as far back as when we didn't get promoted 2 years ago. A couple of personnel changes, but generally the skeleton's been really strong. What has happened is we've had quite a few injuries where people have had to come in. But as I said, we've got Jordan Willis on loan from Coventry, and he's fit absolutely perfectly into the squad. He's a brilliant addition. I mean, they did take two of our defenders did take each other out on the way to conceding the first goal against Stevenage, but that was just a massive howler, and that's so rare for us. We're normally pretty rock solid. And what we have got as well, which is quite crucial, is we've got wing backs that will run and will run down the lines, and McGowan in particular is very strong at that, and if he's in the game he will try and move the ball forward as much as he possibly can. The link is always going to be Mark Leonard because he is a class above everybody else in midfield. He really is. That, I think, if you can unlock Leonard, as I said earlier, I think we'll be free in midfield, but it's what we do up top and whether we're able to do that. Because I know your keeper's pretty strong from what my memory is.
Yeah, I've been really impressed with Jensen this season. There was a few question marks maybe about his distribution earlier on in the season, but I think they've probably been answered now, and I think he's well on his way to being a very, very solid League One keeper. If he's not there already, I think most people probably say he is. But okay, so we'll start to wrap up then. So with regards to Friday, anything specific to watch out for from you guys, and we'll round it out with the dreaded prediction.
I would always look out for Sam Hoskins just popping up somewhere, because he is guaranteed to. Whether that means we win the game or not is irrelevant. He will eventually pop up somewhere, I'm sure. But Mark Leonard is an absolute class act, and I would be very, very surprised if we don't see him in the very near future playing Championship, if not Premier League football. He is just incredible. The way he can move the ball is so slick. It's like silk. It really is. Prediction wise, to be honest, we got a bit of a mauling Boxing Day, so I think a recovery needs to happen with that. But I would say I would be happy with a draw. I really would be. I think a draw, 1-1 draw, solid away from home, I'll absolutely take that, and then get a recovery result against Cheltenham on New Year's. That's what I would predict.
Fair enough. Well, I'm going to have to break some hearts, I think, because I think we're in dire need of getting something. I think obviously, the Derby game, the Bolton game, there's a bit of unrest within the sections of the fan base. So I'm going to go with a 1-0 victory for the Imps. I think it's going to be another tight game. I mean, the Bolton game was incredibly tight for different reasons. We were just, putting the shutters across the doors and hoping that nothing got broken down in the end. But yeah, I think if we can put something together on Friday, and just, I don't care if it goes in off someone's backside. I just, we just need to get a win on the board. And I think on paper, and I know this is absolutely no disrespect, it's like on paper, it's team that's come up from League One, we're kind of, team that's come up from League Two, we're kind of getting to that established point in League One now. I just wonder, is this going to be the game that we should be winning? But then you look at the table and you've won more games than we have at the minute, so it's going to be a really interesting one. But yeah, I'm gonna go for a 1-0 win. So thank you. Look, thank you ever so much for joining me, Chessie. It's been really, really good.
You're welcome.
To have a chat with you, and a couple of minutes just to plug yourself, and to get your name out there, and where can we find you, the rest of your stuff?
So It's All Cobblers to Me is the podcast that we run. It's run by mainly Charles, who's the person that decided to invent it all about 5 years ago. There's 4 of us now, make up a lovely little team. It's my 3 best mates, basically. And effectively, it feels like a nice form of therapy after each game for us. And particularly when we're doing quite badly, it's nice just to actually offload. So it's very much, we don't take ourselves very seriously at all. But if you want to come and listen to us be really sad if we lose against you guys, please feel free to. It's all Cobblers to Me. So, but yeah, we love it. It's a bit of fun, and yeah, we're massively grateful for. I'm sure, like you are, massively grateful for the support of the people that actually listen, but the club as well, who've been amazing in helping us to build a little bit of a community, which is lovely.
Super stuff. Well, there you go. Yeah, go check out It's All Cobblers to Me. But until then, we'll see you guys at the bank on Friday. Up the Imps.